Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. If someone handed you $100 right now, not a loan, not a gift card, actual money, what would you do with it? Most people, if they're being honest, would say something like, I'd put it in my savings account, or maybe I'd pay off a little bit of my credit card. A few people might say I'd invest it. And then almost all of them would do none of those things. The $100 would just kind of disappear into a dinner out, into a random online order at 11 p.m., into a streaming service they forgot they subscribed to. Not because people are irresponsible, not because they don't care about money, but because nobody ever showed them that $100, handled in the right sequence with the right thinking, can actually change something real. Today, I want to show you exactly that, slowly, without tricks, without promises. Just math, psychology, and a little bit of honesty. Let's start with a name, Ilara. Ilara is 27. She lives in a mid-sized city. Could be Manchester, could be Minneapolis, could be Lyon. It doesn't really matter. The numbers are roughly the same everywhere. She works in marketing. She's not struggling, but she's not comfortable either. She earns around $3,800 a month after taxes. That sounds okay until you map out where it actually goes. Rent, $1,200. Car payment, $320. Car insurance, $110. Groceries, $280. Phone, $65. Subscriptions, somewhere around $80. She's not entirely sure. Student loan, $230. Credit card minimum, $75. That's $2,360 gone before she's bought a single coffee, filled her tank, or had one social dinner. She's left with roughly $1,440 for everything else. And everything else, as anyone who's lived on their own knows, has a way of filling itself up completely. By the end of most months, Ilara has somewhere between $80 and $150 left in her checking account. She's not bad with money, she's just been handed a financial structure that eats money before she can even think about it. And the cruel irony? She has a small investment account she opened 2 years ago. She put $200 in it once just to see how it worked, and then never touched it again. Most of us are more like Ilara than we'd like to admit. Here's something the financial internet rarely admits. When someone says, just invest $100 a month and you'll be a millionaire, they're technically not lying. The math does work. But they're skipping the part where they explain how someone like Ilara finds that $100 in the first place, and more importantly, why the first $100 is psychologically the hardest one. It's not a money problem at first, it's a perception problem. When Ilara looks at her $1,440 of leftover budget and thinks about investing $100 of it, her brain does something very specific. It calculates not in dollars, but in trade-offs. $100 feels like a week of groceries. It feels like the dinner she promised her friend last month. It feels like the car repair she's been delaying. It doesn't feel like a retirement account that will be worth something meaningful in 30 years, because 30 years is an abstraction, and hunger is not. This is called hyperbolic discounting. It's a deeply human tendency to value the present far more than the future. Economists have studied it for decades. It's not a character flaw, it's just how human brains are wired. And the financial system, the credit card industry, the subscription economy, the one-click checkout, it knows this about you. It's built around this. So when we talk about the $100 investing strategy, we're not really talking about $100. We're talking about training your brain to see that $100 the way a financially intelligent person sees it. Not as spending power, but as a seed. Let's do the math on that seed. Very simply, $100 a month, every month, invested in a basic index fund averaging 8% annual return, which is roughly the historical average of the S&P 500 over the last few decades, adjusted conservatively. After 10 years, approximately $18,300. After 20 years, approximately $58,900. After 30 years, approximately $149,000, from $100 a month. Now here's what makes those numbers interesting. Not impressive, not shocking, just interesting. If Alara started at 27 and invested $100 a month consistently until she was 57, she would have invested a total of $36,000 of her own money over those 30 years, but her account would hold roughly $149,000. The difference, about $113,000, she never earned. She never worked for it. It came purely from time and compounding. That's not magic. That's just math running long enough to do its job. Now here's the version that stings a little. If Alara waits just 5 years, if she starts at 32 instead of 27 and invests the same $100 a month until 57, she ends up with approximately $98,000. Still good, but she left $51,000 on the table by waiting 5 years. 5 years of hesitation cost her $51,000, not in risk, not in bad decisions, just in delay. That's the real cost of saying, I'll start when I have more, because you rarely get more, you just get older. So if the math is this clear, why doesn't everyone do it? Let me introduce you to someone else for a moment. His name is Tobias. Tobias is 31, based in Germany. He works in logistics management and earns about 2,900 euros net per month. He's smart. He reads about finance occasionally, and he genuinely wants to build wealth. He has no major debt except a small car loan. Every few months, Tobias opens a brokerage app, reads through ETF options, gets confused by the terminology, gets slightly anxious about choosing the right fund, closes the app, and tells himself he'll do more research first. This has been happening for 3 years. Tobias doesn't have a money problem. He has a complexity paralysis problem. The financial industry, intentionally or otherwise, has made investing seem like something you need to be qualified for. There are thousands of ETFs. There are tax-advantaged accounts with different rules. There are people online confidently arguing about strategies that contradict each other. And so, Tobias does what most rational people do when facing an overwhelming number of choices with unclear consequences. He does nothing. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. The more options available, the less likely we are to choose any of them. It was documented in a famous study about jam. People walked past a table with 24 jam varieties and didn't buy. They walked past a table with 6 options and bought 3 times more often. Investing platforms are a table with 24 jams, and nobody's telling Tobias it's okay to just pick one jar and walk away. Here's what's actually true. For most people at the beginning, a single broad market index fund, something like a Total World ETF or an S&P 500 index fund, and a simple automatic transfer of $100 a month is genuinely enough to start. Not perfect, but enough. The best strategy you'll actually follow beats the perfect strategy you'll think about forever. Now back to Alara, because this is where the strategy part actually comes in, and why the title says the next one is easy. The reason most people fail with a $100 investing plan isn't discipline, it's sequence. They try to invest what's left at the end of the month, and at the end of the month there's almost never anything left, because spending naturally expands to fill available money. This is Parkinson's law applied to personal finance. Work expands to fill the time available, and spending expands to fill the money available. The financially intelligent shift is very simple. You move the $100 before you start spending, not after. This is called paying yourself first. It's not a new idea, but most people understand it conceptually and never implement it mechanically. Mechanically, it looks like this. Ilara's paycheck hits her account on the 1st of the month. On the 2nd of the month, automatically, through scheduled transfer she set up once and forgot about, $100 moves from her checking account into her investment account and immediately buys shares in one index fund. She never sees that $100. It never feels like a decision. It never competes with groceries or dinner or the jacket she's been looking at. By month 3, Ilara has genuinely stopped noticing it. Her budget has restructured itself around $1,340 instead of $1,440. She didn't consciously sacrifice anything. Her brain just adjusted. This is called behavioral automation, and it's arguably the most powerful tool in personal finance that nobody talks about nearly enough. Not because it requires willpower, but precisely because it removes willpower from the equation entirely. You're not relying on yourself to make a good decision every month. You're making one good decision once and letting the system make it for you every month after that. Here's what the title actually means. The first $100 you automate into investing is hard. Not financially hard, psychologically hard. It requires you to fight the default, to set up the automation, to trust a process whose results you won't see meaningfully for years. But something quiet happens after about 3 to 4 months. You watch your investment account. Maybe it goes up a little, maybe it dips. You feel slightly less anxious about the dip than you expected. You realize the $100 didn't actually hurt you. Your life didn't change in any visible way. And then, almost without drama, you find yourself thinking, what if I increased it to $150? That's the moment. That's the psychology of the strategy. Because the second adjustment isn't a sacrifice, it's a habit upgrade. And the third is easier still. By the time Ilara is 30, she's investing $200 a month automatically without thinking about it. She got a small raise. She redirected half of it before lifestyle inflation could absorb it. The other half went into her real life, because she's not a monk, she's a person, and balance matters. At $200 a month, the same 8% return scenario over 30 years gives her approximately $298,000. Not retirement alone money for most people, but a genuinely meaningful financial cushion. And she built it by starting with $100, not by overhauling her life.
I want to be honest about one more thing before we wrap up. The reason this strategy isn't universally practiced isn't just psychology, it's also structural. In the United States, the student loan system means millions of young earners are paying off education debt through their primary wealth-building years. In the UK and parts of Europe, housing costs in major cities have risen so dramatically that the math Ilara runs every month is genuinely tighter than it was for the generation before her. These are real constraints. They don't disappear because you automate a transfer. But here's the distinction worth drawing. There's a difference between cannot invest right now and haven't yet built the habit of investing. Most people in Ilara's situation, not all, but most, sit in the second category. Not because they're failing, but because nobody walked them through the actual mechanics of starting small. The $100 strategy isn't about becoming wealthy quickly. It's about joining a financial process that over time works in your favor instead of against you. Right now, for most people, compounding works in the bank's favor, on your credit card debt, on your loan interest. The only way to put compounding on your side is to start, in whatever small way you can, putting money somewhere it can grow. So let's come back to the original question. Someone hands you $100. What do you do with it? If you've been watching, you might now be thinking, I automate it. I send it somewhere before I have a chance to spend it. I pick the simplest, broadest fund available to me. I ignore the number for 6 months, and then I see how I feel. Not because $100 changes your life immediately, but because doing it once makes doing it again easier, and doing it again makes doing it a third time almost automatic. And after a few years of that quiet, undramatic habit, the math starts to say something genuinely interesting. Ilara figured this out at 27. Tobias figured it out at 31.
A little later, but still early enough for the math to do real work. The question is just when you want to start, not whether you should. That part's already settled. If this felt useful, not exciting, not hype, just useful, that's exactly what this channel is for. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of thinking. No noise, no rush, just the things that are actually worth understanding. See you in the next one.